You heard it was very good. I would tell you if it wasn't. I mean.
Okay, welcome everyone to the workshop meeting for the month of October, Northwest Indiana High School District. Please rise and join me in opening exercises. I pledge allegiance to the United States of America, and to the republic which it stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Thank you. Please be seated. And Stacy, would you please call the roll?
Sure. Ron Casiano.
Here.
Willard Delaker.
Here.
Joseph Betzinger.
Present.
Todd Hernandez.
Here.
Becky Height. Here. Lauren Hunsiker. Here. Todd Weiser. Rachel Sheffler. Here. Jennifer Cenovitis. Here.
Thank you. First item is to approve the agenda, which you have in front of you, and I will entertain a motion to move ahead with that.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Patsier,
Second.
second by Mrs. Shepherd. Comments or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. We have an agenda. Welcome once again. At this point in our meeting, we offer courtesy of the floor to anyone who has joined us this evening and would like to address the board. And if you would, please rise and state your name and the township that you live in. Would anybody like to address the board at this time? Yes, sir.
Yes, my name is Jared Houston, I live in North Township. And I have a son, Jamie, who's in second grade at Weisenberg. And a daughter, Bobby, who'll be entering kindergarten next year. Here tonight, I'm sure many of you heard about the video that circulated around the middle school last month. For those of you who have, it's very disturbing. Very inappropriate video that were on children's cell phones throughout the school. And I'm here tonight to propose a possible solution to what this would happen again. I don't want to take a lot of your time. Obviously, you know more about this than I do. What I've heard from a few different people are obviously rumors, but you guys know the facts. So I'm going off of those rumors, and that's why I'm here tonight. It's my understanding that the school system has a new cell phone policy. I believe that's probably impossible to implement and to police because teachers and administrators are busy with disciplining children, with educating children, and just looking after the welfare of each children. And to make sure that students who have cell phones and not using during classes has to be next to impossible. Has anyone ever heard of yonder pouches? These are pouches that are used in concert venues, Broadway shows that are actually being used in schools now. And I have a little pamphlet I want to pass out. You can look at it. It kind of shows the thing. I just have 10 copies, so it's not enough for everyone. Basically, what happens is when you enter a venue or a building or anywhere, there's these pouches where you put your cell phones into. They lock up the pouches, and then you keep the cell phone with you. You don't have access to the cell phone while you're at a particular event or in the school. Now, Yonder's been distributing this over schools for about 3 to 4 years. State of Pennsylvania, a lot of schools in Philadelphia are using it now. And it allows the students to keep their phones, but they also can't use the phone during the school year. Now, I understand you don't foolproof. There's ways to get these, to break these open, there's ways to cut these open. But I feel that it could be a possible alternative to just saying no cell phones in school. That's not going to happen. I looked into this, talked to another school on Allegheny Township, for Pittsburgh, Allegheny County. They've seen some positive results over the past year. They did it at a pilot program in the middle school. So I think it was about 470 students they did it with. It seems to be going well, but they're going to roll it out probably in the whole school district in 2024 or 23-24 school year. Obviously, these things come at an expense. Nothing is for free, but I just wanted to come tonight and just present that as an option. I want to know, one, if the board thinks this is a possibility, or if I'm just going to waste my time exploring this. And two, if it is a possibility, what are the next steps that I can take? Because I'm not. I'll look into this myself. I'll get a consultation with the company. I can get signatures if you need me to get a petition going. I could fundraise to cover the cost of the trial program. Just try to get something moved forward because as it sits now, these things will happen, I guess, with cell phones in schools. The cell phones don't even in schools. There's no educational purpose for those whatsoever in schools. I can't be convinced otherwise. There's enough educational materials in schools now. to do the job of teaching, and cell phones are just a distraction. And that's pretty much all I wanted to say. So I just hope that I come back next month after you've had a chance to look at these and maybe discuss if it's possible action.
Well, thank you for bringing this information to us as a concerned parent, like all of us are, and something like this is I would say, kind of a major change to policy that we have that would have to be researched and evaluated by our staff to move from where we are now with cell phone use and to a new policy or procedure that we would implement in our school. So as far as the case is concerned, I don't think there's a whole lot we're allowed to say about where that stands, as you could probably understand, but
Yeah, I mean, I'm not allowed to say a lot about the situation, but I would,
want to know about.
Yeah. and what I would say is that some of the things that we deal with often occur completely outside of school.
Mhm.
And are brought into school, or maybe not even brought into school, but we are left to deal with things because of interactions that happen outside of school. And so I would say that happens much more often than us having technology violations within school. And so this is a proportion for that segment of things that happen within the school boundaries, but there's often times where it's completely something that happens out of school on personal devices, off school time, off school property, but yet the repercussions of those things are what is brought into school for administrators.
I don't want to be misunderstood. I'm not blaming anyone in the school system, not at all. Like, this is not, you can't stop this from happening. And even with these power, if it works, it's still not gonna stop it, but like, just, I mean, I'm not blaming anyone whatsoever. So, there's too many kids and kids.
Yeah, I didn't take it as blame. I just, there's two pieces, and this would control one of the two in terms of sometimes students choose to do things with personal devices that this wouldn't control.
Gotcha. Thank you.
again, thank you for coming and presenting us with this information, and I'm sure it'll be looked into.
Okay.
And all of our policies and procedures, no matter how rigid they are constantly being reviewed and in a lot of cases redone, revised, and brought back to the board for approval to implement changes. And this is an ongoing thing that we do at the school, and this is certainly one of the things that we can crank into that process. Thank you. Okay, anyone else at this time? And there will be another opportunity at the end of the meeting for to address the board in a courtesy of the floor. And with that, thank you again. We will move into first item on the agenda is under policy, and we have some more 100s. Speaking of policies, some more 100 policies to review, and they were, I think, given to us in detail under a separate cover. But do you want to review where we are with that, Dr. Cisneros?
Yeah, absolutely. Just as a reminder, as I mentioned, I hope to bring about 10 plus policies each month. That way we can systematically go through the 100 level policies in which we received from PSBA. I did provide the board a summary of changes in the board weekly update. I'll just stop there and say that these policies are, for your consideration, move to second reading. I'll take any questions you might have.
Okay, we might as well take that the second reading. Are there any questions after reviewing those policies with the changes that we've made to turn over to Dr. Cisneros? Comments, questions, clarifications? And I think we're in good shape. And there is one policy that we will rescind in 2 weeks. That dissection, which is covered in other policy, one of the new policies.
That is accurate. It is now part of another policy and no longer required a standalone policy. Policy 50 or 105.2 exemption from instruction folded that policy within it, and it did not require a standalone policy. So we're rescinding it.
Comments or questions? We're done with policies. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving into operations,
Yes, sir.
Art, do you want to take us through those?
Certainly. This is our annual maintenance contract with the floor. They do all of the things of servicing our chillers, our boilers, our heaters. Twice a year, they basically come in. It's just continuation of our maintenance agreements we've done this year every year, and it's under the CoStar's contract that we do this. Any questions on it, I'd be glad to answer.
It's the routine renewal.
Yes, sir.
So we'll take action on this in 2 weeks. All right, how about lead testing?
Lead testing is performed. We did all of our testing. We don't have all of the results back from the independent lab yet. The buildings are in, they're fine. So we're still waiting on the results. So I'll report all of the results at the actual board meeting. That's something that's required now under.
There's another routine item
Yes, sir.
that we do annually. Okay, any questions for Art before we move out of operations? And we'll move into district finances, and we have a retroactive approval for a field trip.
Correct,
Cycle farms.
yes. Northwestern Elementary is actually planning a field trip for October 17th, this Siebel Farms. And since it's happening before the board meeting, I'm just asking for approval to sign the contract, and then we'll retroactively approve it on the 19th. For the students, everything is paid out of student activity, so it's nothing that is in general.
Any questions? Okay,
Next item is our Tiger concessions. So when the auditors were here a few weeks ago, they recommended that if we want to purchase something with the Tiger concession money, and it's not something for in the stand, like a refrigerator, a new hot dog roll, or anything that's not physically in the stand, it would typically be a general fund expense. But because we have Tiger concession that is for the purpose of buying those extra things for other things for athletics, they're asking us to now transfer the money for that purchase from Tiger concession and buy it out of general fund to reimburse general fund. So that's what this is. Jason would like to buy 2 scooters to keep in the stadium for those individuals who may not be able to walk to the stands. So we're asking if you guys would approve in 2 weeks for the purchase of those, and it'd be $1,900, and we would just transfer the money from Tiger into general to cover that purchase.
Jason, you have anything to add on that?
No, I don't know, call me a bleeding heart, call me Will. It's a hike from our gate to our home grandstands, and for graduation, we use manual chairs. We let them borrow that. We've been having a good year in Tiger concession stand so far, and I think it would be a nice service to our community for some of our elderly that continue to support us to be able to borrow that. Another member in their party, bring it back, and it's there. It's almost like a Walmart or a Lowe's where they have those little carts available. So yes, I've been wanting to do this a while, and I kind of would like to do it sooner than later now at this point.
So this really doesn't have anything to do with the concession stand itself. This is just.
No, it doesn't. So as a reminder, the stadium concession account, the proceeds that go into that account, the monies we raise goes to benefit every sport. So we could look at purchasing a wrestling mat with some of those funds. We purchased an auditorium curtain. We've helped out with cheering mats of that nature. So again, we utilize those funds to kind of take care of everybody else as far as facility type upgrade type things, not equipment and things of that nature, but facility type upgrades. Soccer bench, soccer team shells we purchased at one point in time. So things of that nature.
So are these hand push or are these mobilized?
No, they're like the jackies you see on the ski rascal. And they're not for me. Mr. Caggiano asked that question and
All right. Any comments or questions?
Do they have to get plugged in, Jason,
They
somewhere?
do.
And then, are they stored somewhere then?
Yeah, down in the big rooms, there's electric to both those areas. So we're gonna store them in there. And when we have events, we're gonna have them pulled out, have an extension cord with a power strip.
Good. We gotta broadcast this, advertise this.
Not really, it's as they come in, they're gonna see it, and that's what we did with graduation, and it worked, you know, folks are really good about it, and I think they'll be really interested.
Yeah, thank you. Good idea, Jason. Any comments or questions? Then we'll take action on this. in 2 weeks. Okay, moving into reports then, the new reports.
The new report. So you will see your condensed board summary report. There's nothing out of the ordinary for the month of August. As I reported last month, taxes are up, our collections are up, so that's a plus. Interim taxes are around the same as delinquent taxes. Salaries, if you look at condensed board, the 1000s, it looks low because this is still the month of August, so everything we paid to teachers in the month of August goes back to 21-22. So that's why you don't see that on that this report, because it's already taken back to the old school year. We had a debt payment with principal and interest last month. EIT collections are down by 3%. I'm sure it will bounce back. That's about it.
Any questions on the reports that we will be receiving in 2 weeks? Okay, thank you. And I think you do have 3 items under other
I do.
informational items.
Correct. So at the end of this year, our contract is up with Provident Energy, and they go out every 3 years to buy our electric at a lower price. So they requested to go out early before the winter season hits, thinking we'll get better pricing if we go out earlier than later. So I'm just giving you dates of when they're going out and expecting us to have contracts back in November to sign to release and lock into rates for the next 3 years. Right now, he sent an email last week and projections right now with not going out. They're anticipating not going out if we would go with regular off the street electric with PP&L and that. It would be like a 52% increase in our electric bills. So that's why they're thinking if we go out early and lock this in, we will not have that hit. Yeah, it's huge,
So we'll look for that in November.
right?
Right.
Right now, Nutripoli Bank is running a CD special. They actually upped the percentage. When I put this on board, the going rate was 1.75 for a 13-month CD. They have now upped it as of Monday to 2.78 for a 13-month CD and 2.27 for a 7-month CD. So I'm recommending that we go and do a $5 million CD. I looked at the cash flow for the 13 months and then do another $2 million CD for the 7 months. Just if for some reason something comes up, in 7 months, we'll have that $2 million back. Because right now, interest rates on our regular checking account is 0.89. So.
You talk about the 2 that we didn't do anything with.
Correct. So last school year in 2021, we did have 2 CDs. They were each $1 million a piece, come up for renewal, and we cashed them in for the simple fact that the CD rates were extremely low. So that $2 million is in our sweep account. So I'd like to reinvest that now that the rates have gone up.
Chrissy, what's the 7-month rate?
The 7-month rate is 2.27.
So this is just informational. This is
Correct.
something that normally the business administrator and the superintendent discuss and take care of themselves without necessary board action, but it's bringing to us for information. As we see everything happening out in the financial world, we can take advantage of some of those things now and then.
Yes.
Thank you for keeping an eye on that.
Sure. And the last is just informational. We recently in March have moved to CSI's new platform or financial software, which is called FIS. And in their old system, they would handle all the 1095Cs and 1094s for the ACA reporting. In this new system, they have decided that with all the new regulations coming out, it was better for a third party to do that for them. Of course, we have to enter into a contract with that new third party. The new third party, I am meeting with them next week with probably a contract come October 19th. The maximum pricing they gave us is like $2,000, which they will prepare all our 1095Cs and 1095Cs and 1094s, and they will send the reports to the IRS. In the old CSIU system, we had to send the reports to the IRS. So this third company will do that all for us now. So I just want to give everyone a heads up.
Any questions? Thank you. And we'll move into old business. There is no old business on the agenda. Is there any old business from board members? Bring up at this time. Then let's move into new business. We do have the new calendar for board meetings coming up for next year. Say anything about that?
Sure, we set it up the same way that we have previous years, but we would like to move it for action to the board meeting. So if there are changes or times or things that you wanted to change, workshops and board meetings are both on there, both at 7. The reorganization meeting as well as the May meeting changes are listed on there the same way they are now. If you would like to keep it the same, we would move this forward. If you want any changes, you would let me know so we can bring you the appropriate board calendar. Because once you approve it, it does get advertised with all of the board meetings scheduled. So is this the calendar you would like to move forward?
So this is basically the first and third Wednesdays, as it has been.
For May and December.
Except for May and December. And July. So that anybody wants to make any changes, now's the time to do it. And we'll continue on the schedule that we've been living with. Okay.
We'll bring that back.
Take action next 2 weeks.
The next one on your new business agenda is board committees. We also mimic the same structure that you've had before. I don't know if there's anyone who wants to volunteer or move committees for the ones that they are assigned. But these also get then approved by the board of directors for the committee assignments. So this obviously is board and workshop on it, which has traditionally been all board members. The IU, the LCTI, the LTRC trustee, construction committees, curriculum committee, the rec commission, our affiliates, as well as our school health advisory.
So we'll just take a look at this and see where you are, and if there's any changes you'd like to make in your participation on the committees, just either let me or Jennifer know, and we'll bring it back to the board.
If you would like to not be on a committee you're assigned, let me know, so I can find someone who might want to replace you if you are not interested in serving a role that you've done in the past.
Looking at this, there's only one vacancy currently under curriculum council. And if anybody's interested in curriculum council meetings, and that's open to anybody, whether you're on the committee or not. Okay. Any questions about that before we move on? Take a look at it, see where you are, and if there's anything else you'd like to do or not do, let us know. All right. What's next? Gate and ticket prices.
Yep, I put this on the agenda after discussion with Mr. Delaker. I did ask Mr. Zimmerman to be here tonight to describe some of the history of kind of how we got to what we do with gate and season ticket prices, and then certainly if there's information the board needs after he gives you some of the history, which some of which I was here for, but some of which I was not. If there's additional information you desire, it is something that the board approves usually every May or June. This past year it was in June for ticket prices. So if there are questions or things that you need after he describes some of the information and the board wishes, we will get you whatever information it is that you need. Mr. Zimmerman.
Thank you, Mrs. Holman, and in my discussion with Ms. Holman, I think I have a good idea of what type of information you're looking for, and I'm not gonna keep you here longer than necessary. One of the things that I talk about when it comes to admission prices, and unfortunately, Mr. Liser's not here, but sometimes, you hear the community or folks around this table talk about a pay to play. One of the things that my argument against that has always been our parents, our families already do pay to play. And this ticket pricing is one of those reasons. I mean, many of you had children who participated. You're dumping a lot of money into the equipment. We're not providing shoes. We don't provide a lot of that stuff. So I've always been against that. This board's goal has always been to find alternate revenue sources other than tax dollars, which I've kind of taken personal as a personal challenge to me to become better, do things a little bit more efficiently and offset some of those costs. Because I'll tell you, no matter how much ticket money we bring in, it will absolutely not offset the cost of the athletic program. And I think you've all heard the criticisms out there. You guys have fortunately been very supportive of extracurriculars and athletics and saying it's a part of the encompassing education of a student, and you've been really supportive. There are folks out there saying, why are we spending tax dollars on some of this stuff? So you've all heard that. So again, keep that in mind as I go through some of this stuff. Just to give you an idea of some of the expenses that we incurred, just a soccer and a field hockey game alone, okay, averages about $680 just in expenses. That's referees, event staff, our grounds, our security. It doesn't include the lighting, the electricity of the lights, or toiletries of that nature, toilet paper, things of that nature. And on the flip side, the revenue that we attain at those events are really, they average about $550. All right, so already we're in a deficit. We're just trying to help make some of the ends meet there. Football, a little bit of different animal, obviously more expenses, larger crowds, need a lot more stuff. About $3,500 in expenses there, and you're averaging $4,000 in ticket sales. Our student attendance at events are amazing. Students are not attending our games because of the cost. They're walking around with $1,000 cell phones. We make it very affordable for them, as you'll see when I get into the season passes. That being said, no student has ever been denied entry because they can't afford it. When we were under the old cash system, so we make the books correct for Christie's folks over in the business office. Many of us were throwing $3 in there. The other night we had a family, I think it was your boys or girls soccer, I can't remember. It was boys soccer, because Lauren helped us out with that, help organize that. We had a kid, people were just dropping their kids off and they were coming into the gate. We didn't think they had to pay. Guess what? We didn't turn that kid away and make him wait outside the whole time. We took care of him, made sure he gained entry. Okay, so those are just some of the expenses, some of the things we do. We work very closely with the NYA and our booster clubs. And we try and sponsor an evening where, a kid gets in for free if they're a member of the NYA youth program of that sport, and the boosters offset the cost. I might get in trouble for saying this of what we actually do. So I always try to be careful, but this board has always been very supportive of what I do, make the best decisions. I'm not charging those booster clubs full rate. So 50 people coming through, 50 kids come through that, they get a discount. It may be more like 30 kids came through when I send them that information. Okay. Sport has always supported me in that. Quite honestly, if they held my feet to the fire, I could probably get in trouble for that, because maybe I shouldn't be. But again, those are some of the things we do on the side, outside of, just behind the scenes, to make sure we work with our community and our NYA kids and our programs, and the boosters have been phenomenal with that type of stuff. So just to give you a little history of where we're at, here's how the process works. At the end of every school year, I'm obviously the treasurer of the Colonial League. We get together, we meet monthly. In May, we get together, we compare notes. What are our plans for charging admission? We want to try and all be on the same page as close as we can. I'm a little bit further behind right now in Northwestern, because we went with online sales. And rather than raising ticket prices, I kept them the same, because the folks are inheriting some of those fees, saving me a ton of time in my operation, and it's saving us some money. We don't have to hire as much staff to take care of that by going online. Equally, I don't want our parents to have to, I don't want another ticket increase upon those fees that they're incurring because we went to online. And it's been working out very well. Every Colonial League school that has an event in a stadium and a gym, they charge admission for. They just do. There are some schools out there, Raven, they don't play in a stadium type complex, okay? They're not charging. You go up to, I know some of the other schools, like Christie will tell you, Tamaqua, they charge for everything. They even charge for track and field. So again, it's kind of all over the place. Our leagues, the only league tries to stay consistent. So where they have the ability to charge in a stadium or gym, they do. 3 schools in the Colonial League, being Northern Lehigh, Notre Dame, and Salisbury, do not charge their students admission. I can tell you they're all looking at policies to change that because of recent events they have had experience. I think Chief will attest to it. Him and I are there in the line of fire, and Mrs. Holman on a Friday night. And it's not a shot at anybody, but our biggest concern and issue are unsupervised. I'm going to say middle school, probably older elementary kids who are at the game. It's great they're there, love it. I'd rather them there than anywhere else, to be honest with you, on the street somewhere. But it is an issue. That ticket that they must buy is a little bit of an insurance policy. It means something to them versus if we just get in. I fear we have more of an issue there. Our student section that sit in the stands is huge. It goes from the bottom of the bleachers all the way to the top, takes up a whole section. So they're there. Come playoffs, I think, Rach, I know you just went through it. Come the playoffs, our kids are there supporting those kids. The reason they're not there is because, for instance, my son tonight, 6 o'clock, Troy will tell you, 6 o'clock, they come home, they gotta get their homework done, they gotta eat, they can't necessarily make it back up. But when the boosters run a special event for them, they make sure they're there to support their peers. They really do. When we put the stadium in, it was also one of the selling points for us. I said it was going to be a revenue, somewhat of a revenue source to help offset some of those costs. So before, these costs and expenses for these events don't change, whether I play up on the soccer field or in the stadium. The benefit now is being able to charge admission to the stadiums. I can offset some of these costs, okay? And I think Christie will attest that had shown up in the budget. As far as others, I went ahead and talked to some other schools. I can tell you across the board, the majority of East 10 conference schools, those are your Parklands, your Whitehalls, your Eastons, etc. They're only charging for football, wrestling, and basketball. Okay, they must have a limited source of money, and I'm envious, but they just don't. So you go to a soccer game over at Whitehall in the new Zephyr complex, adults and children and students are not getting charged. Okay. So what I do after we compare notes amongst the league, I bring this information to this board in June for final approval. Sometimes there's been questions, not oftentimes. I will let you know if there's an increase in cost, just to give you that heads up. There hasn't been, and then that is what I operate with the following year. With some changes possible that you guys give me the luxury of doing. So for instance, if we have it's supposed to be a JV varsity doubleheader and one game gets canceled, I'll reduce that cost down. Rather it's charging 5 and 3, which is what's listed on the sheet. I'll break that down to 3 and 2. Again, keep people happy and be fair. Just a comparison on our revenue. So in 19 before the pandemic, okay. This is when we were manual ticket sales, so it made it a little bit difficult to track, and I can't break down student/senior citizen tickets into who's the students and who are the seniors. I just can't, so I have to lump it up into one. I can in the future if I want to. I just add another level and chart that with the online. But we sold 7,772 adult tickets in pre-COVID, pre-COVID. And 7,226 student/senior citizen tickets. I can tell you the majority of those tickets are students because we already offer our senior citizen residents a gold card, which I'll get into a little bit later. Which the gold card grants our seniors, our resident senior citizens complimentary admission. 21-22 last year, we were still under some restrictions, but we had 6,274 adult tickets sold. Which equated to roughly $31,000, a little more, and 5,529 student tickets sold, which equated to about 16,500. So far this year, we're having a really good year. All restrictions are lifted. People are coming out. Our teams are doing well. So far this year, our adult revenues are. This is just tickets, $15,148, and our student tickets are $8,290. Now you also need to add in your adult season passes, which is another $8,000, bringing that total up to about $23,000 in revenues for adults. And our student season passes are about 4,300. So now you're at about $13,000 just this season, since August, in student ticket revenues, student/senior ticket revenues.
For all sports that have happened so far.
So far, which is your girls volleyball, both your soccers, your field hockeys, and your footballs. Okay. Just and stop me in the middle. Don't be afraid to interrupt if you need some clarification on something. But if not, I'm just going to ramble right through. Season passes. What I did to really help folks out. Okay, if you're a parent and you're coming to all of those games, okay, you figure, you know, if you're going to go to all those games and purchase individual tickets, that's going to be an amount. I took that amount and I discounted it based on a formula. So essentially, in the end, what I tried to do is give everybody essentially 2 free games. Okay, so I'll give you for example. Let's use boys soccer. So boys soccer had 8 home games scheduled this year. The cost if they purchased an individual ticket per ticket for an adult was $6.49. For a student was $4.43. Total cost for an adult if they bought individuals was $51.92. And a student $35.44. I discounted those tickets to $34.29 and $21.94 respectively. So the adults are getting almost a $17 break on their ticket, and the students are getting a $13 break. Okay, so and that's consistent across the board. If somebody wanted to see a specific one, I have it here to show you. There's also a situation I ran into this year where I had a parent that had a boy on the boys soccer team and a girl on the girls soccer team. I created a pass structure for them so that they weren't getting killed. And I get that, you know, because mom and dad, they're splitting up and one was going one direction, the other was going. So I put a pass together, which is the beauty of the online passes.
Jason, is that a case by case basis? Do people call you and let you know that they need that option? How would they access that?
That's just through concern. So when I originally did this last year, some of the concerns, I didn't offer all these individual passes, so I only offered a fall season pass. Well, some folks brought up the concern, well, we don't really want to go to this, this, and this. Okay, so through the online system, I was able to create other passes. So if I hear concerns, my ticket staff are great. They hear it and they share it with me. Some folks reach out to me and I'll look at it. I'll put some value to it and go from there. For instance, this one I came up with my own. You had an all football pass, which got you into all varsity games and all middle school and JV games, which a lot of people purchased. Okay, but if you're a band parent or you're a cheerleader parent, you really only want varsity only. And there's a lot of members of our community that don't have any kids in the program and they just want to come see the varsity football games. I made that pass available for them as well. So the neat thing about the online system is it's kind of it's unlimited and we can look at it. And you just, you make it work, and you just coming up with the prices is the toughest, but I was able to come up with a formula now that kind of steer me in the right direction.
Do we still currently, Jason, have like an all season pass where if somebody just wanted like all fall sports or all winter sports or all spring sports?
Yeah, I don't, Lauren, because they are Dr. Unstrom, so I don't, simply because they didn't really sell.
Okay.
If there was an interest in that, I'll be honest with you, what you could do is you could just buy each of those passes. Because you can, in the system itself, you can buy combination passes if you wanted to. You don't get the necessary discount from what you're paying, but the individual passes are already discounted.
So whenever there's an event that it's students getting free, that's Booster Club's covering it or NY's covering it, somebody else, those funds are coming from.
Booster, 99% time of booster, yeah. Sometimes the NY, so we don't have necessarily a booster club with some of our programs, but like lacrosse is a good example. They don't have a booster club per se. We'll work with the NY coaches, they make it happen. Okay. And again, I don't go into them at all when we do those special events. And the history behind that is like, just so you're aware, years ago, we really only charged for basketball, wrestling, and football. And years ago, it really wasn't youth basketball programming. Always was youth wrestling. But what used to happen is, I'm telling you, 30 years ago, saying, kids used to be able to wear their jerseys and get in. Mr. Keller will tell you, the board was like, this has gotta stop, you know, we were having problems. Because we had to bring in extra people to help manage that, so we shifted towards they should pay, and don't really get complaints on necessarily charging from our folks. It's more the online stuff, and then once I explain to them how, you know, to go about and getting a nice discount, then they understand it, and they're good, but
Okay.
it is what it is. And just so everybody knows, even with our online programs, the Colonial League, District 11, and NCAA, it's all online. Northern Lehigh shifting to all online next year. Whitehall is also shifting to all online next year, not offering any cash option. Again, hear me clearly say nobody has been denied entry because of either our online program or because they can't afford it.
Can you talk about that? So I'm a student who can't afford it. Do I just come up and I say I can't afford it?
We're aware of a lot of those kids through other sources. Listen, I should remove the names from it, but my wife's a counselor. So I get to know a lot of some of that stuff, like, hey, look out for this. Any kid that comes, we had a kid interestingly enough, like 2-3 years ago, 4 years ago, actually, he loved coming to games, just loved being a part of it, couldn't afford it. He would get the referee's water for me in exchange for his admission. So if people truly can't afford it, we will help them. Whether it be out of my place this time, listen, my ticket staff myself, we've all kind of done it. Ms. Holman's done it. We float the kid wants a hot dog even, you know, we'll float with the clubs where we talk to the boosters and say, hey, can you hook this kid up? So nobody's ever denied entry. And we have heard of kids that, we really like to go to the game, we really like to go to the homecoming dance, or things of that nature, and we make sure they're taken care of. Nobody's ever.
So I just have a couple of questions. And I appreciate that explanation. So is everyone in PIAA in this league using the same online venue? Can you explain?
PIAA playoffs, District 11 playoffs, Colonial League playoffs. The member schools in the Colonial League that are using this are Saucon Valley, Northern Lehigh, Bangor. And I'm sure I'm missing some people. I know Whitehall's also using it. I know Pottsville is using it. So again, it's trending that direction.
I know there's a couple of online ticket sale venues, so I was curious as to why you tended to lean to this one over another one.
I didn't lean towards this one. I originally started with Ticket Lead. And then I was using Ticket Lead, and then they go into the Colonial League event and then want to use Hometown. They didn't have to use Hometown. I wanted to use the same platform as all those entities. So it's a seamless transition.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you. If we talk about the use of the fields, when we look at like NYAA and just out of curiosity, are they charged the same amount to use our facilities?
Yes, that's part of our use of facility policy.
Right, and I know that's in there. I just wanted to be sure that's consistently used.
It's consistent by it's consistent by group. There are different groups that
Yeah,
get.
but the NYAA is using it, yeah, whatever those rates are for that facility, it's broken down by facility. And then whatever the cost is of large people to work that, yeah, so again, during the you also have to break it down to, are they charging admission? If they're charging admission, it's a certain rate that we charge. NYAA they don't get charged of rental for our facilities at all. They get charged for custodial or maintenance coverage. And then in the winter, you gotta look, we start shifts to a 7-day-a-week schedule to help out the NYAA, with the exception of Weisenberg. So if they're using that on a Saturday and Sunday, they're not charged that because we already have somebody on. So yeah, but consistently, yes, and that's built through the business office and it's consistently billed.
Okay.
I guess I need a definition of consistency. I need like an example of what.
So I'll just be very matter of fact. So some of the feedback that I have gotten has been, Sunday football isn't charged, but this booster is. Now I can't make that accusation. This is hearsay. I have no evidence.
So
of that, right?
so the year of COVID, we did charge because they weren't allowed to open a concession stand. So this board was gracious enough to kind of waive a lot of those fees during that time. I can tell you, NYAA football is charged when they use the stadium for their events. They are charged for the custodian and the security coverage. Okay, basketball And wrestling, probably not, because it's on a 7-day, unless we were to bring security in for them, they are not, because that go into the 7-day week. If we were a 7-day-a-week coverage, 365 days a year,
In the last couple of years, because of short staffs. We didn't do the 7-day. We were able to cover Saturday.
thank you very much, yes. So, yeah, they are all billed exactly the same, so I don't know, that's.
And that's why I'm bringing it up, and that's why I asked, because I just had questions, and not everyone's gonna call, and I think it's important to talk about that. The last thing I really had, so when you do get the income, you talked about an income from football. Let's say your expenses are $3,500 and your income is $4,000. What do you do with that extra money? Where's that from?
That's all in the budget, so you'll see in your budgets, Christie and formerly Leslie, and formerly Ryan would put in a line item that basically shows the revenue, but it's basically what that revenue is whatever was brought in the previous year. So all the revenue we bring in from ticket sales literally just goes to offset the athletics budget. It's not like I get that money. I don't get that extra $1,000 and can go out and write a check to buy a bunch of footballs or soccer balls. That's not how it works. It literally goes right in, it's deposited into the general fund.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other discussion? Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, Jason, thank you for bringing up all of this information. I think people were curious about it. I know I was approached a few times by different people. I think the main criticism that I was receiving from community members was that they felt like for one night, when it was a community event, to be charging admission for an NYAA player to come and support their high school team when the parents are coming, mom and dad are both coming, so you're gaining extra revenue in that way. They just felt like as a community that values mentorship and supporting one another and coming together to, they just felt like it was kind of silly that we couldn't, give up, $150 on NYAA players. And I don't think it was necessarily about the money per se. I think it's that they hear what we donate to, they hear what we vote yes on and things like that. And what we've said, sure, we can donate that or we can do this. And then to not be willing to do one night where we allow NYAA players with their respective jersey for that sport. I think it just created a little bit of friction. So I think explaining this and how it's been, I think is good. So
Which we do, Lauren, I think you're referring to boys soccer, obviously, and I don't think you remember that night, it was just a little goofy, and Coach Hunsker and I talked about it a little bit, and we're gonna work better with our booster club next year to make it.
And I can talk to you privately about that too, because I had a discussion with someone that night.
Yeah.
And I even offered to pay for those students that were dropped off. And I said, just let me know how much they were.
Yeah, we ran NYA nights in every sport
Yeah.
this fall, and we just had one volleyball.
Yeah, I mean, and I was approached by other sports, so it wasn't just soccer, so I don't just want to call out soccer, but that was something that was brought up recently. And another question that was brought up to me by parents were when our high school students, when they come home from different games or different events, and their peers are playing. So I'll use soccer for an example. So boys soccer is playing at home, girls soccer comes home, they have to pay admission to come to support the boys who are currently playing. And it was kind of a question as to why can't they just come in and support those boys because they're home early? Don't we want to have them support? So again, those are just things that I wanted to bring up to you.
If they would come in as a team, Lauren.
Then it's different.
Then absolutely, like we make that, like that situation when it comes to sport boys, I go to Coach Smith and say, you guys want to come in as a team, Coach Metzger and say, yeah, no problem, we make that happen, but. Again, we need some controls too, because if we're gonna start doing that, and that's a great example.
Mhm.
I'd be on the phone with him saying, listen, we're gonna need some more.
Some more
and just, you see how it gets.
I get it, yeah, and that's why these are just two things I wanted to bring up so
But
that.
duly noted, because I do that I actually do that in the winter, so. But they're more coming in as a group. You know what I mean? So when the middle school boys basketball team come practice, they want to come over to see the varsity game, whoever's playing. they kind of come in a group, come into my back office and we get them. So it's duly noted. Let me see if I can kind of resurrect and fix that.
I just have one more, sorry. You mentioned middle school behavior and supervision, things like that at games. Has there been any talk or consideration for putting out something? Maybe this is where you, in order to come at the middle level, you must be accompanied by a family.
It's there.
We've put it out.
Doesn't happen.
Okay.
They can't get through the gate without a parent. That's there. That's in place now. As soon as they get in, they sit down, parents sit down and
Yeah.
which is fine.
Yeah,
Again, it's fun. It's, I'd rather be there. Just hear me clearly say I'd rather them be there than somewhere else. And we, chief, thanks to chief and the staff there, we manage it pretty decent. Better than some, I would say.
Yeah, I just wanted to, I know other districts are moving to that, and they have actually not allowed kids to come in at the middle level. I will say, just on a positive, the student section is amazing. And my daughter attends every game and says, it's so great, and I can't wait to be a senior. So I can sit at the top, so, or the bottom, I should say, so.
Let me also say though, that if a kid, I'm telling you, if a kid comes up to our gate and that young, I'm not turning him away out in the dark. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I hear that.
hear me, so again, the rule's there, but we make it work.
And so please hear me, I'm not knocking that. What I'm saying is, when we talk about kids coming in for free. I don't know, and I've worked with education for 15 years, a kid coming and saying, I can't afford it, so I was just. You hear that feedback, some of the feedback, just so you hear that is, what does that look like, and I don't wanna discourage someone who can't afford from coming, but if they knew that that was how that worked, maybe they would come, so
The kids. I don't want to say too much in a public setting. I will tell you, we hear more about it than you would think, and it's through their teachers, through other parents, like because we're a tight community, we get to hear a lot of information. Nobody wants to see that, so they'll give a quick call, let somebody know, and then we take care of it.
We've had that too, and.
I don't know how it's explained. I mean, that's.
Well, that's how you explain it. I mean, we've had that happen too. So sometimes the prom ticket, but like that goes into like kids, we've paid for kids' dresses and like, I mean, you don't advertise that, but there have been situations even with the prom where we've made sure kids have what they need. Jason himself. So yeah, so certainly that we would make that happen. That wouldn't be, but you do hear it. Somewhere along the line, they tell somebody something.
A lot of times their peers will also kind of build that. We have pretty decent relationship with a lot of students, and they'll come in and say, hey, Jim, can you help us out? And my buddy wants to go, and we make it happen. And there's also opportunities for them to volunteer to kind of, so they don't feel equally as in, I don't want to say embarrassed, but they don't feel as awkward, so they'll come and work they'll work chain crew for me at the game or something like that.
I mean, we run into the same problem with LCTI, to be quite honest, because of some of the fees and costs and kids being proud of not coming and saying, I can't go to welding because I can't afford the helmet or the boots or whatever the gear is. So sometimes, I mean, we certainly have approved lists, but there are also kids that we will find out from one way or another to not make sure a kid isn't prevented from doing something they really want to do, whether it's athletics or prom or, going to LCTI, for example. Some of the kids are expensive at LCTI.
Any other comments or questions? Well, thank you for coming tonight and this review, which I think as families move up into the district through the grade levels, they enter in all these different like sports, athletic programs, and chorus, theater. Questions come up and people just don't know what the what the rules are. I think the philosophy we've had as a board in the district, as long as I can ever remember, is that every kid that wants to participate should be able to participate, whether it's playing on the team or being in a band, being able to afford an instrument, or being in a play, or coming into the games as a visitor or as a observer. Every child should have the opportunity to participate. And then also, as you mentioned the welfare of the students while they're here on our property. I mean, we've got that, we're aware of it, we've got it covered, we have capable people that know what's going on and take action to make them safe, keep them safe. And ticket revenues have never always covered all of the costs, never. And there you get into this balance with the rest of the community. You know, we're talking about a community of 15,000 people, and we have 2,000 students. And with the parents, I don't know what that is, 5,000 maybe. The school, the actual school community, 5,000-6,000 out of 15,000. And we'd like to say, yeah, everybody can come and do everything for free. You know, it doesn't cost anything. But then you have twice as many people in our community who are paying taxes for this school that I'm sure would object to these giveaways if we would do something like that. So it's always been a balance, but it's always been as I said, the philosophy of the school to make it available to anybody who wants to participate. And there are always exceptions, and there are always ways around to help those kids that might need help. And as we heard, Jason is flexible in the way he offers tickets and packages and all this and that with the NYAA and kids that need help and families also. And we don't want to set a precedence that we can't afford or we can't sustain by doing things out of the ordinary that we shouldn't be doing. So I think, I don't know if there's any further information or action that we're looking for here, or if we're just going to continue now that you heard how we operate. If that's satisfactory, we'll just close this out and move on. Unless there's something else, some more information that you'd like to have. Okay, well, thanks again, Jason.
There's only one thing left, but we added one thing late this afternoon.
Oh, okay.
He printed it. We got it.
Food service grant. Okay.
Just wanted to bring to the board's attention, there's an opportunity for us to potentially qualify for a grant. The grant timeline is that we need to submit the grant by October 14th. As always, we bring grants before the board for approval. Fortunately, with the timing of this one, it's not going to be available for your approval till, by
So
the
we'll do it
19th.
retroactive.
Yeah, so this is a new business item, just to let you know that this may come on the next school board meeting.
Okay, any objection to that? Okay. Apply for the grant. All right, with that, we'll move into courtesy of the floor. Again, this is a point in the meeting where we offer the public who has been with us to comment or to approach the board with any concerns or questions. We're good, okay. We do have an executive session after this meeting, and I want to put out a reminder that the next meeting that we have, the next public meeting, which is in 2 weeks, will be at LCTI, which we do every year. And we accompany some of our LCTI students who will be there to give us a tour of the labs that they are involved with down there. And there is a meal that we will have for the board and for the parents and their students prior to that meeting. And that will be at 7 o'clock in the meal is.
Oh, the meal's at 5:30.
5:30. So it's a 5:30 start instead of 7 o'clock next week at LCPI. And we have an invitation.
You all have your invitation in your envelope.
Okay. With that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So much.
Motion by Mrs. Scheffler, second by Mrs. Benavides, and second by Dr. Lindsay. Motion, meeting adjourned.
I know.